We're at 6:30.
All right, shall I kick it off?
Ready when you are. Kurt, are you ready?
All set.
All set.
All right, good evening. My name is Nathan Clark. I'm the chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Sign Code Board of Appeals. And I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's meeting for Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. It is 6:30 p.m. and we're gonna pass the baton to Kyle Covey to introduce some of our guidelines during this virtual meeting.
Thank you very much. My name's
I'm
Kyle
Covey, and I'll be
Covey,
facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting. With me here is Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. We will work alongside the chair, who is on remote video, to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Currently, I have everyone muted so we can talk through general ground rules for tonight's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found in the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over the icon. This will make it easier for everyone to hear the meeting. Just remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon located next to the microphone icon. For the purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on for the duration. If you are participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all the meeting participants. Be aware that we will not be screen sharing as a part of the meeting this evening. All attachments, reference materials, and submissions from the public are included in the agenda packet. A few reminders to ensure that the provisions of the Kansas Open Meetings Act are met. Board members, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I'd also ask the applicants and members of the public identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. Individuals who signed up in advance to provide public comments remotely will be called upon by name. When called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call for in-person public comment for those who are physically present. Staff will direct you to the podium to speak while following social distancing and safety protocols. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, staff will call on each board member individually to provide their vote. Staff will then announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. I want to again remind everyone to please mute yourself when you're not speaking, and I'll now turn the meeting back over to the chair.
Thank you, Kyle. Nathan Clark, chair. We'll kick this meeting off with agenda item A, which is a roll call to determine if there's a quorum.
Good evening, Commissioners. Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. So I'll go ahead and call roll. Clark.
Present.
Alvey.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Harrod.
Present.
Shalinski.
I'm here.
And Weissner.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you, staff. Nathan Clark, chair. Moving on to agenda item B, communications. Are there any communications to come before the board this evening?
Staff has not received any additional communications. There were several that were included
in your packet this evening.
Thank you. Nathan Clark, chair. Part B, do we have to disclose any ex parte communications or abstentions from specific agenda items this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to part C. Are there any agenda items this evening that will be deferred?
Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. We have no items that will be deferred this evening.
Thank you, staff. Nathan Clark, chair. Moving on to agenda item C, minutes. Do we have any minutes to approve this evening?
We do not have any minutes this evening to approve.
Thank you. Okay. Nathan Clark, chair. Moving on to agenda item D, the public hearing portion of this evening's meeting. At this time, we would love to hear from staff for item number 1, a request for a variance and the density dimensional standards for accessory structures at 817 Mississippi.
Good evening, Commissioners. Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. I'm going to present item request B20-00264, which is a setback request, a reduction of setback from 5 feet to 0 feet for an accessory garage structure located at 817 Mississippi Street. This particular request is triggered by the narrowness of the lot and the desire that the applicant has to put a two-car garage on their residential lot. The difficulty for accessing the garage doors from the vehicles is what is triggering the variance request to place the structure close to the north interior lot line and reduce the required setback from 5 feet to 0 feet. When we are weighing variance requests, we have 5 criteria that we weigh the request against. The first criteria being conditions that are unique to the property. In staff's review, we've identified numerous conditions that are unique to the property, primarily that these are older, narrow lots as they were platted in the older subdivisions located in Lawrence. Most of those typical subdivisions in the neighborhoods like Pinckney, Old West Lawrence, Oriad neighborhood, some in East Lawrence, usually have alleyway access adjacent to them. There are some that don't. This is one of those areas that does not have alleyway access, but the lot sizes are the same. Also, the existing primary structure on the lot was platted in the 1800s, and according to the county, the primary structure was built around 1905. This particular primary structure is located 5 feet from the south lot line approximately, and approximately 10 feet or so from the north lot line, which gives only access to the property for vehicles on that north side on the existing driveway that is there. Again, being as this is an older neighborhood, another unique condition, these neighborhoods typically historically have developed where accessory structures would face the street front, and the development pattern in this area is consistent with that, where the accessory structure does face the street. Typically, that causes the structure to be placed close to interior lot lines. And again, because these smaller lots were typically planned with alley access, that permitted cars and vehicles to enter the site from the rear, not having to have necessarily a front-facing garage, but they could face the alleyway and access it that way. This particular lot is one of those that does not have that option. So that's one of the unique conditions that staff has found in this particular property. The second criteria, whether or not the variance would adversely affect the rights of adjacent owners. In staff's review, we did not feel that this particular request would adversely affect rights of adjacent owners. Many of the lots in the area have similar configurations with primary and accessory structures. And this particular development will be maintained only on this particular parcel and does not bleed over into adjacent parcels or hinder any access to anyone using their parcel. The variance request has taken into account any potential overhang that the structure might have, and that variance request has been calculated to allow that structure to exist solely on this parcel and not encroach on any adjacent parcels. Criteria 3, that the strict application constitutes an unnecessary hardship. Staff did feel that this particular lot configuration in the older neighborhood could constitute an unnecessary hardship in that it was causing a restriction that the owner would not be able to utilize their property in the same manner that other residential homeowners can use their property in similar districts, where they can have a two-car garage and provide that covered parking just like any other residential structure might have. So staff did feel there was a potential unnecessary hardship in this particular instance. Criteria 4, that the variance request would not adversely affect public health, safety, convenience. Staff did not find that this particular request would have any adverse effect on the public or safety convenience. Again, the pattern in this area and other similar neighborhoods and zoning districts is that vehicles that take access off the public right-of-way typically travel on a small, narrow driveway to the accessory structure at the rear of the parcel, which is typically located close to the side lot line. So it is not encroaching or causing any adverse safety or public health implications to neighboring or surrounding properties or the public in general. And criteria 5, that the variance request is not opposed to the general intent and spirit of the code. Staff did not feel that this variance request was opposed to the intent of the code. Accessory structures are the requirements for accessory structures, and the purpose of that section is that they are to remain subordinate in nature to the primary structure, and that they are typically at the rear of the structure. They do not encroach on the side or front setback. So this accessory structure would comply with all the other requirements for accessory structures, just like any other accessory structure would. And so this variance request, staff did not feel went against the intent of the code for dimensional standards for accessory structures. And I would be happy to answer any additional questions if you have any. So.
Any questions for staff at this time? Okay, Nathan Clark, Chair. Seeing no questions for staff, I would like to move to the applicant portion of this agenda item, if the applicant is here.
I am the applicant, Mike Myers with Hernley Associates, architect here on behalf of the owners of the property. Catherine has done a great job of framing the issues here. The only thing I would point out is, going through this, trying to understand what the development patterns are in the area. I did go and look, and it's pretty much the common. Since the setback requirements for accessory structures are accepted in lots with alleys in this area, the lots without alleys I looked at, and predominantly they don't meet the setbacks. So, historically, as Catherine was saying, it hasn't been followed. So, really, I just would like to agree with the staff report and ask you to consider approving the variance tonight.
Nathan Clark, Chair. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant at this time? All right. Seeing none, I propose that we move on to the public hearing portion of the agenda this evening.
This is Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. We have no one in the actual room for a public hearing. I don't believe we have anyone signed up.
Nathan Clark, Chair. Thank you. Then I would entertain a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Board Member Gardner, so moved.
This is Eric Weisner, second.
Nathan Clark, Chair, asking staff to take roll call on that.
Catherine Weeks, staff liaison. Clark?
Aye.
Falvey?
Aye.
Gardner?
Aye.
Harrod?
Aye.
Shalinski?
Aye.
And Wampler. Oh, I'm sorry, Weisner.
Aye.
So motion carries.
Nathan Clark, Chair, thank you. Does the board have anything that they would like to discuss at this point in time?
Board Member Gardner, I wanted to compliment the staff on the analysis. 100% agree with it, and so did the people that wrote in. So I'd make a motion that the board grant the variance to reduce the required interior side setback from 5 feet to 0 feet for the proposed accessory structure at 817 Mississippi Street, based on staff's analysis and finding that it meets the 5 conditions outlined in section 201309 G1.
Nathan Clark.
Shalinski, second.
Nathan Clark, Chair, we have a motion and a second. Staff, could you please take call on that?
Clark,
Aye.
Falvey,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Shalinski,
Aye.
Weisner,
Aye.
Harrod.
Aye.
I think that's everybody. Motion carries.
All right, Nathan Clark, Chair. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Nathan Clark, Chair, I believe that closes the public hearing portion of tonight's agenda item. Moving on to section C, miscellaneous. Are there anything miscellaneous to come before the board this evening?
And we don't have any necessarily miscellaneous items, but I do want to give you a heads up about next month's meeting. It looks like by tomorrow at 3, we will have potentially 3 items on your agenda, 2 for the BZA and 1 for the Sign Code Board of Appeals. So,
Nathan Clark, Chair, thank you so much. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's Board of Zoning Appeals.
Board Member Gardner, so moved.
would you like me to call roll?
So
We have a
let's get
second?
that.
Oh,
We have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Staff, could you please call that?
Clark,
Aye.
Falvey,
Aye.
Gardner,
Aye.
Harrod,
Aye.
Shalinski,
Aye.
and Weisner.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So
Take
Eric,
care.
was this your shortest one of the day?
Of the day, yes. It may have.
No, for Eric, sorry.
It doesn't quite beat the record. We have 16 minutes on the clock here, so. But
It was by far my shortest meeting of the day. Not even close.
See you guys.
See you guys. See you next month.